So we have a really fascinating and insightful student panel for you to take in as you continue to eat lunch. So I have just a few things to do. I have one main, and that is to get this started. But I first wanted to share a story about a young person that I've recently encountered. He is a 6-year-old triathlete that I've come to know by virtue of his participation on a swim team that my children are on. And he is just, if you can envision this young person, very tiny, with a bike helmet on. He looks a little bit like a Pez dispenser, but he goes at it nonetheless. His parents shared with me that during an event over the summer, during the run portion, so if you're not familiar with triathlon, it starts with a swim and then a bike segment and then a run. So on the last segment of this triathlon, when everyone around him was focused on the competition or their own goals, he got a little bit distracted. And they weren't sure actually where he was. They weren't watching him on the course. But it turns out that when he came upon one of the water stations, and at these big road races and events, you can imagine a table full of cups of water that have been prepared for athletes to grab as they're running by, and then when they run by, they drink it and just toss it on the ground. This young triathlete, Connor, saw that mess, and he added several minutes to his time because he decided to stop and pick up all the cups. And he didn't see anyone else doing it and figured that it was his responsibility to do it if no one else was going to do it. So that uncommon sense of responsibility and that spirit is something that occurs to me that we are blessed with an abundance of here at Ohio State. So on a daily basis, our students are demonstrating that kind of commitment. So we have thousands of young Connors who have matriculated here and are now making that kind of impact in their own ways here. They inspire us by taking action and not just running past the problem like many of us do. So from my vantage point in student life, I really get to see some of the best of student leadership in this arena. Our students are applying what they're learning in class to solve the complex problems that could literally save our planet. In addition to the impressive array of scholarship and research that you've seen on display here at the conference, some of the finest applied scholarship being done by any student in any discipline is the work being done on sustainability, routinely winning recognition at the Denman undergraduate and Hayes graduate research forums each year. Then on top of that, in their co-curricular lives, our students are community leaders through the remarkable things that they are doing with their student organizations. For example, Students for Recycling diverted over 4.5 tons of waste through their annual dump and run sale. And the various student organizations partnering on Time for Change Week brought more than 1,500 of their peers together for a sustainability fair where genuine learning and networking is leading to a more promising future. So I really can't say enough about the powerfully innovative academic programs, the research, and the student organization involvement at Ohio State being done on sustainability issues, but it turns out I don't have to say anymore because we've got a great panel. And to start that off, let's take a look at a quick segment highlighting some of the best of student involvement in sustainability.
Ohio State students are the most passionate students around in the country, I would argue. Those involved with environmental things are doing amazing work all over this campus.
For me, sustainability means being able to maintain something. And so when I look at sustainability in our world, I see are we able to maintain the way we live? I see us as not really being sustainable as the way we use our resources and materials that we have, such as plastic.
Last year, a group of my engineering friends and myself, we started this group called Buckeye Precious Plastic. It's based on the precious plastic movement that started in the Netherlands.
So this was an open source community created in 2013 by a man named Dave Hawkins. And it was this really cool idea where you can create these 4 machines that basically act as a materials recovery facility. So you can gather all these plastics and then break them down and then use them in a way that you won't just have a single-use plastic, but you can reuse it.
A lot of the plastic waste in central Ohio doesn't really end up being recycled. It ends up in landfills or in our environment. Whereas we want to create like recyclable products that like, whoa, once you're done with it, you just bring it back and we're going to recycle it again. We have 4 machines that we're building to continuously like recycle products. We started the program about a year ago and we didn't have a lot of money to fund the program because we were kind of self-funding because you need to build these machines. And to get that money, we applied for the Ford C3 grant.
We won $25,000 to spend for 1 year to meet our deliverables and try to enact change in the community.
And so that money is going now to building these machines and like funding our projects. So like once we're gone, we want Buckeye Precious Plastics to live on like past us. A lot of countries around the world have done a lot with this concept. And in the United States, the Midwest doesn't really have that much. There's no like machines built in Ohio yet. We wanted to be the first and start our campaign in Central Ohio, and no better place to do it than OSU.
For Ohio and in the Midwest region, there isn't really a place where you can get involved. But there is interest in the community, so we're trying to provide that for them, a place where people can collect plastic and use it because they're clearly interested in it. They just need a place to start.
The Student Growing Collaborative, or SGC, is a student-run farm.
We've been growing on a plot at Waterman, and this past summer we moved to a 4-acre plot.
We grow a variety of different plants, mainly vegetables, and we try and do this all organically.
It's really amazing to have a student farm on campus for several reasons. It's really a place for students who are interested in farming to really get a chance to actually have real-life experience doing so.
They help bring younger people into farming because of the growing age of farmers in America. And then they also work on practicing sustainable practices on their farm, and they basically bring what we learn in class into like a real world setting.
The student farm can be a really amazing way to help reduce OSU's carbon footprint.
We have put in a grant to start up an agroforestry plot on our farm that will help cut down greenhouse gas emissions because it will be soaking up a lot of the carbon that is emitted at Waterman and the surrounding area.
We do a lot of the zero waste composting for OSU. It gives students real experience for that.
We are an organization that tries to help with food insecurity around Columbus.
The number of college students that are food insecure is rising rapidly. And on that same note, the amount of food that we're eating that's coming from local sources is pretty rare. We have some great organizations on campus that are trying to combat this, but we would really like to be a part of that and having students directly involved in the sustainable food production. So that's a really great, important part of what we can do here at Ohio State.
Sustainability is a goal that we should all strive towards. Using good agricultural practices will be a big step towards that. I believe that what I learned here on the farm will help me with my future career, because if I keep asking questions and keep pushing that boundary to learn these techniques, I can better apply them in the real world to where I can make a difference globally, starting from the community and going outwards.
EcoCar is a 4-year collegiate competition where the Department of Energy and General Motors challenges universities to re-engineer a vehicle and make it more sustainable while also keeping the performance characteristics of the stock vehicle. We worked with a Chevy Camaro. Camaro is an iconic vehicle, and it's known for having very good acceleration, and we were required to do that while also maintaining very high fuel economy. The vehicle that the team developed featured an E85 engine, which runs on ethanol. In addition to that, it was a plug-in hybrid, which allowed the vehicle to run on electricity for the first 40 miles. So in a typical person's commute that was under 40 miles in one direction, the vehicle would not consume any fuel. It could then be charged at work and then come home and essentially be liquid fuel neutral.
This is a project that it's so easy to find your passion. It's a huge project, and at the same time you can go so deep into whatever you want. Not only develop your own learning and your own self, but also really explore new technologies and new innovations.
I had no idea that my passion was going to be in the automotive industry, but I've joined and I just got more and more involved, and the hands-on experience has really changed my career path and everything else.
Our vehicle actually won first place in all 4 years of the competition, which was a great testament to the amount of effort the students put into the design of the vehicle and the execution of the design over the entire 4 years.
For a lot of our graduate students, we're working 6 or 7 days a week because we're really passionate about this project. It's not that we need to be here every day. It's not that we're required to be here. We're here because we want to be.
From EcoCar, I really think my passion in sustainability has grown. I want the future of the automotive industry to be more fuel efficient, less emissions, and ensure that our future generation can drive vehicles with no worries.
All right, some truly groundbreaking partnerships among our faculty and our staff and our students. So to introduce and facilitate our distinguished panel of student leaders today, please welcome Marie McConnell, an environmental policy and decision-making major in the School of Environment and Natural Resources.
Thanks, Matt, for sharing that video with us all. I can't say enough how much joy it brings me to see the work of my friends and my peers being recognized. It's really amazing, some of the things that are going on across this campus. Before we get started and dive in with our lovely panelists, I wanted to share a quick story with you all. I have been an environmentalist basically my whole life. I was really into nature and wildlife and the woods as a kid. And I have this really, really vivid memory of the first time that I heard about climate change. I was watching TV with my dad, probably a program on the Discovery Channel because he's a really classic dad. But it was a really doom and gloom program, and there was like images of starving polar bears and melting ice caps and all these horrible things that was just, to me, really upsetting. And they talked about carbon dioxide and carbon emissions and all of these things, and I was really young and I didn't know what that meant. All I knew was that I breathed out carbon dioxide a lot during a day, and I was devastated when I kind of put that together, and I was like, oh my gosh, this has to be my fault. I am contributing to this problem. And I sat there in the living room and I plugged my nose for a while, and I was like, I can't breathe ever again in my life. This is it. And luckily, before I turned blue and passed out, my dad looked over and was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm saving the polar bears, you guys, like, obviously. But not the case. And he looked at me and was like, knock it off. That's not how this works. And you're not going to be able to do anything. I was like, well, what can I do? And he's like, nothing. It's just too big of a problem. So this was a mindset that I carried for a really long time, and I'm sure a lot of us have thought about these problems like pollution and food systems and all of these things that just seem way too big for any one person. So you come to college thinking that I can't make a difference until I'm a leading scientist or, the CEO of a business or a world leader. And luckily I've had some really amazing experiences to kind of dispel that thinking. I have found a major that has really empowered me to seek out some impactful internships and future jobs. I've been involved with the Student Sustainability Council, which we talked about in the video, which has been an amazing, amazing experience. And Time for Change Week, which brings together just hundreds of thousands, if not thousands of students every year to kind of really think critically about these issues. And I am really the most inspired by my peers, the students and staff and faculty around this campus that are doing amazing work, and each who are answering the question of what can we do in a different way. So I'm honored to have 4 of such individuals on stage with me today. So give me a hand. Please join me in giving a hand to welcome TJ, Dominique, Matt, and Gina. And whenever you guys are ready, our panelists will introduce themselves, starting at TJ and working our way down.
Hi, I'm TJ.
You on?
Hi, I'm TJ Kirby. There we go. Third time, I'm TJ Kirby, and I'm pursuing my master's degree in mechanical engineering with OSU EcoCar. I'm also the vice president of the Food Recovery Network, an organization on campus that recovers otherwise wasted food and brings it to community centers. So, it's me.
Hi, I'm Dominique Haddad. I'm in my third year studying industrial and systems engineering. I currently serve as the Director of Sustainability for Ohio State's undergraduate student government. So that means I get to lead a group of about 50 students tackling Ohio State's sustainability problems through policy and different project initiatives. And I also work as an energy conservation intern with Engie Services, which is an energy company that recently entered a large partnership with Ohio State.
Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Griffin. I'm a fourth year EAD student studying sustainability and business here at The Ohio State University. I served as president of Net Impact, which is a club that looks at how business can be used as a force for social and environmental good. And I also serve as an intern for the departments of athletics, business advancement, and business and finance, helping those departments achieve the university's sustainability goals.
Good afternoon. My name is Gina Honoka, and I am not an OSU student, so I'm the least exciting member of the panel. But I'm very thankful to work with these fantastic student leaders. I did complete my undergraduate and graduate education here at Ohio State, so I'm a proud alumna. But over the past years, I've stuck around here at Ohio State and worked full-time with academic programs, most recently as the program lead for the Environment, Economy, Development, Sustainability program, which is an academic major here at Ohio State. And about 5 years ago, collaborated with Residence Life to found a sustainability learning community called Sustains here at Ohio State. Currently, I serve as our Director of Sustainability Education and Learning for the new institute here.
So you guys are all involved in some really incredible work in a lot of different ways. How do you become engaged with the community in these projects? And what do these engagements kind of look like? TJ, I think your work really kind of just screams community engagement when you talk about recovering food, so can you tell us a little bit about that?
So first and foremost, when it came to getting engaged, a lot of it was just pursuing our ideas, realized there was a lot of wasted food on campus, and I think everyone thinks that when you see a dining hall that throws everything away. But we followed that up, sent some emails, and just hounded the right people until eventually you realize that you can get a hold of it. And nowadays, Food Recovery Network, we recover around 420 pounds of food a week and bring it to those community centers that we wanted to be engaged with. So the 420 pounds supports approximately 12 people every single day, every semester. So that's one of our proudest achievements. They are our recipients. The community is what we serve. But additionally, the community, they are volunteers. We lead around 20 volunteers who operate over 300 pickups per semester to get all that food together, and it's only going to be growing. Community is going to get bigger, the food recovered is going to get bigger. We're trying to expand to Med Campus, finish up North Campus, and pretty soon we're going to start reaching off campus. And as all that happens, we're going to deepen our reach within the community and hopefully make as big of a change as possible. So.
Can I answer? Yeah. So Student Government's Committee for Sustainability also does a lot of community engagement. I think we realize that need when we realize we can't achieve everything we want just within the bounds of Ohio State. I think the most notable would be our composting project, because Ohio State currently does not compost campus-wide, but they're doing their most to figure out how to make that possible. So our committee recently has really gotten running with off-campus composting. So we had about 105 houses registered last semester, and we went about it by subsidizing about the first half of students that registered. And now it's a system where I get constant emails asking when the next registration will be open. So that's really awesome. We actually recovered almost 6,000 pounds of food waste last semester. And then we also, as far as community engagement, we're really interested in educating students outside of our bounds. So we've actually reached out to Mays Elementary, which is about 15 minutes off campus, and we've started educating the elementary school students about sustainability and what they can do as students.
TJ, you mentioned just kind of sending emails and hounding the right people. How have the rest of you sort of created and established these relationships, and how do you go about creating more in the future?
I think a big asset we have at Ohio State is our administrators. So it's one thing to have an idea like, I want to compost off campus. But being able to reach out to someone that you know is advocating for you and is connected in the community really, really helps. They'll let you know who to email first, who to call, who will listen to you and who will take your time, but also being prepared and asking the right questions and showing that you're ready to not only ask for help, but give the help that you're ready to commit to.
In addition to the administrators, the professors often bring some pretty incredible projects forward to students. Oftentimes, professors are working with companies or with community groups and have identified a problem, but they might not have the bandwidth to tackle that problem currently, so they connect them with a student group who's working in that area, and from that connection, a project can form and students can gain some experience working and addressing real-world problems.
And on the flip side, if there are community groups or projects going on, how might they get in touch with students or get connected to the right student organizations?
One suggestion that I have too, first I want to say thank you to our community partners that do engage with our faculty, our staff, and our students. These partnerships are so valuable to us and provide our students with critical real-world experience before they leave the university. So thank you for that. And I would suggest, as I'm offering up colleagues and team members here, but I would suggest that if you have an interest in this area, reach out to the Sustainability Institute. We'd be happy to play matchmaker and figure out, what your needs are, what projects you're looking at, what ideas you have, and how we can put some bright young minds to work, undergraduate and graduate and professional students as well, in solving some of these problems. So we love to partner, but we know the university is a large place, difficult to navigate, so we're hoping, and I know I speak for our sustainability colleagues across campus too, that all of us are more than willing to have a conversation about how we can best meet your needs while also finding opportunities for our students to engage. So please do reach out to us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Academic counselors as well. If you're a specific area that your community group is working in, like Gina's mentioned, there's so many departments across Ohio State's campus that there's one for basically every need. So just like looking up at Ohio State's website, you can find the office, and then from there you can get connected to an academic advisor, and they normally have a pretty good finger on the pulse on what's happening with student groups and even individual students, and can connect you with the appropriate person or get you in touch, and further down the line you'll meet the group that you want to work with.
Yeah, Matt, you said it really well. I mean, this is a huge university with so many people working on sustainability. And when I think back to this past day and a half of this conference, we've been looking at sustainability through a lot of different lenses and kind of defining it a lot of different ways. So how do you think that sort of interdisciplinary aspect ties into the work that's going on around campus?
Oh, absolutely. It's so incredibly important to the work that Ohio State students, faculty, staff, everyone's doing for sustainability efforts. It's really incredible. I think now when we form a partnership, within our specific student orgs, we're always looking at how we can pull in other student orgs to help or where the other connections can be made. In our classes, a lot of times, we're working on problems that expand beyond our majors, and we have to develop skill sets that, might traditionally be tied down into another career path, but we know now that the problems we're facing are so large that we need to be able to interact with people from a variety of fields. So we're gaining that experience in classrooms, but also outside of the classrooms in extracurriculars. I was lucky enough to be in a learning community my first 2 years at Ohio State called Sustains that was very sustainability focused, if you can imagine. And it was incredible because it was a bunch of students coming in, and we all knew we were interested in sustainability, but we didn't know exactly what that word meant or how we wanted to interact with it. And so it was a bunch of students very passionate but very unaware of what was out there and coming from a huge variety of majors. And from sharing that space, all living together and learning together, it was a really incredible opportunity to explore that and figure out, okay, how can we tie in everyone's different skill sets we're learning, everyone's different backgrounds, and create a project that's bigger than if we just had people who are just like us and thought like us. So campus is a big place, and we all know that we need to tie in a lot of people, so it's a really cool place to see the kind of interdisciplinary learning and experiences that are happening.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, Matthew mentioned learning communities, scholars programs, classroom collaboration with the inception of the discovery themes here at Ohio State that many of you are familiar with and learning about or discussing throughout this conference. The great focus on sustainability, food production, resilience. So those are all topics where interdisciplinary learning fits really well, right? So lots of faculty through those initiatives have been hired over the past years and are co-teaching classes. So this has been a great way that whether or not a student is attending Ohio State and studying, in one of our, I think, over 40 sustainability-related majors, Say for an undergraduate student, they may be able to take a general education course or elective or something else to really engage in these topics, and that can still touch part of their lives. Another opportunity we do, our EADS program, Environment, Economy, Development, Sustainability, provides interdisciplinary sustainability science training in the classroom. That's another great, more in-depth interdisciplinary experience. But as Matthew mentioned, student organizations, learning communities, scholars programs, undergraduate and graduate research are all opportunities to connect with faculty, staff, and students from different disciplines. This is an area where we're growing, and I would say that to everyone who's here today, we'd like to have a conversation about this too, and what are you seeing as the labor market needs and the skills that our students should be coming out of the university with. So please know that that's something we'd like to continue to do moving forward.
And I can't help but notice a lot of these things that we're talking about, right? Like learning communities and student organizations. These are all like co or extracurriculars. So you guys are really working on this stuff on your own time. How do you see the connection between these projects and this work that you're doing and your academics here at OSU?
So first and foremost, it is on our own time, and as a result, I've done a lot of time management. That's really improved things from academics to just personal life, but obviously that's a very important part of how it's improved me. But beyond that, I've gotten a lot of great things like the volunteers I work with. These are people willing to step up to the plate to solve a bigger issue. These are the people I want in my life. I've found lifelong friends through these extracurriculars, whether they be in sustainability or not. And then beyond that, I get to do the weird things that you imagined college would be. I am, participating in events. I'm speaking up at this table. I'm donating hundreds of pounds of food. I never anticipated this, but you hear stories about the fantastic things, and that's what motivates you to get up every morning. It's what makes going to school, especially Ohio State, so fantastic. So by doing these things, it's completely enriched my experience, making it what everyone else believes it to be and what I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. So.
Yeah, just to reiterate, what TJ said is exactly right. Really, it does, what you do in these clubs almost gives meaning to the things you're learning in class sometimes. Being able to apply what you're learning and see the impact that it really does have in communities is incredible and makes it, makes me more excited to learn. But I also did discover my freshman year that clubs are a great way to procrastinate from studying, so took advantage of that. But no, it helps give reason to what you're studying, and that's really fantastic. And you do meet some incredible people. I met all my current roommates. I met like one of my best friends, Ethan Beverly, from the Sustains community, and we've been friends ever since. And so it's a really great way to meet people who are interested in similar things.
I think in addition to time management skills, you also learn a lot of leadership skills. But just managing other students is a whole nother ballgame, because managing employees, they're all getting paid and they're all there for a particular reason. But it's really cool to manage students because everyone's on a different stress schedule and a different reason for being there, and they're studying different topics. And it's just a really cool learning experience about how to be a leader in an environment where everyone's mind might not be in the same space. And with my committee in particular, we are students from every different field you could imagine. And as an engineer, I'm not even the typical person in my role. So that's been really cool to show me even what it could be like to be an engineer and also do sustainability-related work in that field. I think that you learn through these student organizations that your career can be one path, but it doesn't mean you have to only be doing one thing all the time.
Yeah, and Dominique, you just said it, right? You're not really the traditional major to be doing this work that you're doing. But there are students involved from all different backgrounds. Do you think that these students, they see themselves as sustainability, probably advocates, these are things that they're working towards. How do you think they kind of take that mindset back to their academics and their majors or whatever they're studying?
I definitely do think that students see themselves as sustainability advocates. I don't think that every student comes into Ohio State feeling that way. I particularly did not. I did not know what sustainability meant coming into Ohio State. But I think by working with administrators and having successful projects and seeing fruition out of things you're passionate about, that's where they're learning that they can be advocates and that they can incorporate their interests by someone saying, yes, let's do that, or here's how to take the next step on that project idea. That's worth pursuing. I think those are things that teach students that they can do it and that these can all be aspects of who they are as they continue through their career path.
Yeah. And what do those career paths look like then? When people have this passion for sustainability, do they follow these traditional routes that their majors maybe dictate or their research maybe dictates, or are they kind of creating something new?
I think creating something new, definitely. From most people I've talked to in industry and other students, when there's this passion about sustainability, the world wasn't created and these jobs weren't created with sustainability in the forefront. So it's growing and growing. And I think a lot of shaping your career around a passion like this is being vocal about what you're passionate about. And letting people you work with and the environment you're in know what things you want to be working on. And you kind of have to pave your own path. So whether it's like policy or engineering or the business sector, I think every aspect of our society is realizing how much it impacts the environment. So gearing your career towards that is definitely possible.
TJ, what do you think? Because you have a pretty traditional college career.
Yeah, so as a mechanical engineering student, I am pretty much, I don't want to say shoehorned. I can do a lot of things, but there's a very strong stereotype of mechanical engineers going into engineering and sitting behind the desk working on cars all day. And, I'm probably no different. I want to go work on cars. But that doesn't mean I can't help the environment. I'm a member of EcoCar and make my contributions there, and I hope to do the same thing at the automotive companies I'm at in the future. And everyone across all the disciplines can do that. You just find how you can implement that change. So for me personally, it's working on hybrid vehicles, optimizing engines, things like that. But in other industries, it's perfectly plausible to do the exact same thing, just with your specifics. So.
I think that's definitely a strength of people maybe our age or our generation as we're coming out of college and moving into the workforce, kind of having that mindset. But what do you guys think, kind of with that in the back of your mind, how do you think our generation is going to kind of handle these big issues? Ooh, no one wants to start on that question.
None of us have the answer, I guess we should start with. But I think we all have an idea, and I love the story that Matt started us off with, because I think it really illustrates an amazing kind of thought that's coming up in all these future generations of responsibility. I think in the past it's been harder to visualize the impact that our lives have had on other people, but now with just the technology that we have and the media and everything, and there's this constant information, we can see directly how the way we live our lives affects the world. And that really gives a sense of personal responsibility. And I think that responsibility has been somewhat lacking in the world and in the way we kind of set policy and the way we make decisions. But now that we're growing up with that sense of responsibility to live our lives in a way that's good, not just for ourselves, but for the world, it will really change the way people interact and change the way we approach problems. So that mindset, I think, is a very powerful thing. And I think it can address and start to work towards a lot of the solutions we need to see.
And I'll add on to that. That's not to say any other generation hasn't had that same sense of responsibility. However, I think for better or for worse, our generation is very quick to speak up and take action. That's caused plenty of problems before, but we also are using that now to step up to the plate, to solve the issues that we're seeing. I see food thrown away at a dining hall, and we're going to go fix that. But that issue will let us address many of these smaller problems that make sense in our head but aren't really worth the effort on the individual scale. But hopefully, we're starting a culture shift. The snowball effect will come into play, and enough small changes add up to make that bigger, greater change that really influences the way that we impact the environment and how our future generations behave. So just trying to build on what others have done and keep on growing. So.
What do you think, Gina, watching students kind of leave OSU and enter careers? What do you think they're bringing to the table?
A lot of feedback from employers is just this sense of flexibility and openness that maybe didn't exist in past, certain professions the way that jobs have been posted in the past maybe might appear to be kind of limiting, and students today that are coming out of the university are saying, well, I'm going to ask a question, or I'm going to go and meet with that person and do an informational interview and find out what skills do they really need to do this job, and I can be a contributor. So I think as we're training our students, encouraging them to ask those questions and speak up and say, I'm learning some really cool things, and oftentimes from multiple disciplines, and I've had all these awesome experiences as a student, and I can be a contributor. So I think that the world is their oyster, truly. I mean, kind of cliche, but students today are very passionate and well prepared to enter the labor market. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the passion is pretty clear. Just hearing you guys talk about the work that you do is amazing. We have some microphones, so if anybody, we would love to get some questions from our audience members about anything that we've talked about or some of the specific work maybe that our students are working on. We have a runner maybe?
Or not.
Thoughts? Can I take this with me? No? All right, I'll repeat the question back to the crowd. Okay. Cool, thank you.
I'm Steve Grossman. I'm with the city of Bexley, and I don't know if you all know where Bexley is. You all do, so that's easy. And I'm with two other people here, and we're on Bexley's Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee. It's a year old. All of us are volunteers. So one question I'll have for everybody, if there's anybody here who is a volunteer working on environmental sustainability issues, we'd like to speak with you. We haven't found anybody yet. Volunteers. We know there's a lot of professionals and students here. Bexley is about to, we've had a pilot project on food waste recycling. I think we use the same folks that you do, and we're about to go citywide next month. We're working on a ban for plastics, and we'll see how that goes. But my question for you all, or maybe as a request, is that we'd love to have one or two, I'm only speaking for myself, as I can't speak for the committee. They're not aware of your existence, okay? I mean, it's interesting. My wife has been commenting that we really don't appreciate all that you all do, OSU does, and especially on the environmental sustainability side, and we'd love to interact with you. So I'm going to just invite somebody to our next meeting on February 19th in City Hall at 6 o'clock, and to really brainstorm with us, because I mean we're making things up as we go along, and we've been really productive this past year. So that's a request. And I'll give you my card.
So the answer to how do we get more community groups to reach out to students is we need to have this conference maybe a couple more times a year. We'll work on that. Oh, we have someone over in the back corner.
Hi, so I'm a third-year marketing student here at Ohio State.
Can you speak up a little bit? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, better.
So I said I'm a third-year marketing student here at Ohio State, and I wanted to ask the students a question in regards to like how they really got involved with sustainability. I kind of came in at the end of one of the students saying that they were in a sustains learning community. So like I also didn't know what sustainability was until I started working for the Sustainability Institute. So I kind of wanted to know like what besides the community kind of led you to actually make that jump, and then myself being in marketing, what opportunities would be for me to like get involved in more depth and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's an awesome question.
Yeah, so that's definitely, I think, one of the challenges of a university as large as ours is figuring out what opportunities exist and how to get involved with them, and that's definitely something. So the reason I wanted to join Sustains is actually because I met Gina. Gina was the academic advisor for Sustain, she still is, and she did an amazing job, and I got to meet her at a event where I was exploring if I wanted to go to Ohio State. And meeting her, and I got a chance to meet the students in there, and just seeing the passion that they had for sustainability and hearing about all the cool things they got to do, I just knew I wanted to tap into that community and be a part of it. And I also wanted a way to make Ohio State kind of feel a little bit smaller, since it was intimidating coming to a university of this size, and figure out a way to meet, potential friends and things like that. So it seemed like a good way to make it smaller. But I think kind of where my true interest in sustainability first came from was when I was younger. I got to see my dad was working with a company, and he would take trips down to Haiti, and they would do work down there after the earthquake, and just seeing kind of the way the humanitarian efforts and also the environmental efforts tied so closely together, and the way you really couldn't address one without looking at the other. Taught me that if I wanted to figure out a way to help the planet, and I wanted to figure out a way to help the people, I needed to understand how sustainability can bridge those two and bring them together and make it one conversation. So I definitely wanted to explore that through Sustains and see that. Through marketing, I'm going to make a plug. Net Impact is the business sustainability club, and we're always looking for more people. It's a great way, but honestly, like, marketing and communication, I think, is one of the true challenges of the environmental movement today, is figuring out how do we communicate with everyone the importance and the magnitude of what we're facing. And so wherever you do your marketing work, I think just taking those skills and figuring out how to apply it to a cause you care about and helping them communicate what they want to communicate to the public and help gather, volunteers for the food recycling initiative that they're starting, and how do you get mass appeal for that. So I think however you do your work, but I would recommend Net Impacts. Yeah.
So I also want to pitch in. I think I started pretty late with sustainability. I didn't really make it the forefront of my focus until probably third or fourth year of undergrad. And I think it's very easy for many of us to brush off our thoughts on sustainability because very often they're small things. But if you're wondering how we get people involved, yourself or those people around you, one of the easiest things I found was just mentioning those small things that I was going to dismiss. I shared that small thought with the three people with me, and we agree, we realize there are greater issues. And as that sort of snowballs on, you recognize how many people see these problems but aren't acting on them. And when you've got that volunteer base, from there it's just making your voice heard. Send an email, find a group like Net Impact, I guess, and just do a little bit of something once you found the people who realize the same thing that you do. You're not alone in recognizing these issues, so just mention them.
Yeah, I think Matt hit the nail on the head with the fact that sustainability realm really needs people with marketing and communication skills. One of our most successful deputy directors within my committee was a marketing major. I think because he just had a passion, no doubt, but his communication skills and ability to see how the outside world was perceiving his projects was really important. And for me personally, I also worked for Ohio State in a capacity, and that was because I found out that what sustainability was, and I was like, I want to learn more about this. And someone edged me to work in sustainability or something. So I ended up working for Student Life's Office of Energy Management and Sustainability, and that taught me so much about Ohio State and the community and sustainability at large. And I owe a lot of my passion for sustainability to be able to work for Ohio State.
Thank you. Yeah, right here in the front. Hi, Tom. What's up?
I wanted to ask the panelists what they learned specifically about problem solving in their roles, because I know that's a really important skill for employers to hire students that are able to do problem solving.
Awesome. And for the whole room, Tom was asking what kind of problem solving skills and experiences students have gotten through these, the work that they're doing, and how they think that this could benefit them in future jobs.
While they think, I might chime in and just say that one way students across the university are engaging would be through capstone courses that are cumulative in nature. One example is there's a capstone course for our sustainability major here at OSU that partners with City of Columbus and works on real tangible things, and you may have heard some of that here, but real world problems, right, and working with other students to figure things out that are complex and kind of messy. And there's a time frame and a turnaround on that, and then they have to present their recommendations. So that's one example, but they have others, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think a really big component to problem solving that not every student comes into college realizing is how important collaboration is. I think you would love to solve a problem and have the idea in your head of how you're going to do it, but about 100% of the time you can't do it alone. Whether you need someone else to brainstorm or help you delegate or figure out the timeline and figure out what's realistic, or even just have the resources. I think that personally going through different kinds of projects, I've learned that each one is not created equal, and that you need people to help you, and you have to also be patient with those people because sometimes you want to get the ground running and everyone's in their own thing at once. So I think collaboration and learning how to manage and work with people has been a really important thing to learn.
And I'll actually expand on that a little bit. I'd say one of the largest problem-solving skills that I've acquired in recent years has been practicing forgiveness. Like it was mentioned, many of our volunteers are who do all the work, and you have to work with them. However, like many other problems, most issues are also created by those people. So learning how to not only address the problems when they come up, but forgive our volunteers and those who are willing to take that action for the mistake really helps them come back in the future, be productive members of our team again, but it also helps us move past it rather than lingering on the issue.
Yeah, and that ties back into the learning how to be a leader that Dominique was talking about earlier. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Just the soft skills, the people management skills, but also I think it's a big benefit to be able to have students who can see a problem others don't see. So a lot of times in our extracurricular works, we're trying to identify problems that other people just see as a part of the way things work. And just being able to see those issues and bring them up and figure out how to make things better before people ask you to make them better is, I think, a really good skill that students are developing.
Definitely, and I'll chime in on this one. I think something unique to a university like Ohio State, being so large and having so many moving parts, all of these offices and departments and all of these student organizations and projects, you kind of learn how to think about problems a little bit more holistically. Right? We're not just sitting in a classroom or in a meeting thinking about a very small, very specific problem that our university's having. If we're having it here, we're having it in Columbus, we're having it in the US. So I think being a little bit more nuanced in some of our thinking is a really big benefit as well. Yes, go ahead.
Hi guys, I have a two-part question. First, I'd like to know, are you familiar with your OSU Extension Office back in your home county? Or if you're not from Ohio, your land-grant university extension in your home counties?
I'm not from Ohio, and I am not familiar with my home state's extension office. I'm sorry.
That's what I thought. So my question then is, so in Ohio and in a lot of other states, county by county, there is an OSU office in every county where we bring outreach and engagement to your home communities. And so two of our impact areas are sustainable agriculture and environmental quality. And hearing all of your enthusiasm and excitement, I want to know how could we better engage students and when you become graduates and employees, doing this kind of work back home in your communities or wherever you move off to if you stay in Ohio, in that county to continue this kind of work locally and not just on campus. So what would be great ways to reach out to you, keep this going and spreading it throughout the state in your opinion?
Everyone just, I don't know if you could see the panelists, but they all just went,
I think that's a super great question to pose. I worked a little bit with extension offices in one of my jobs, and it was cool to see how it served as that link between the community and Ohio State that I felt like some people didn't feel they could break into Ohio State without having that, community contact. So that's definitely something that's really amazing, and I think that's an area that some students struggle with is keeping the work going after we leave Ohio State, even if it's just for a summer, we go back home and do a job, being able to keep what we're working on and bring that home and what we've learned home to our own communities. So I think if there's anything that can be done, maybe even a little bit earlier, like working with high school seniors who are off to Ohio State and just letting them know, hey, if you're interested in this, this is an area that we can help bring back whatever you do at Ohio State, we can help you establish here. But maybe also, again, getting in touch with those academic counselors here and the same way through the departments and just asking, hey, what are students working on? What are the standout projects in this area that you've heard about recently? And then trying to, reach out to them or maybe, just establishing those lines of communication I think would be great. But I think that would be a fantastic partnership to strengthen.
I would also say that getting started prior to graduation is an essential part here because once we graduate, we all go all over the country, all over the world to do various things. But if you can get into these student organizations, especially larger ones, early on, when we start breaking off, you end up with 3, 4 here and there. You at least have that small conglomerate of people willing to make change. And if you can get them tied together with the extension offices, and make sure I got the name right, you can then have that center, because once we leave college, we no longer have it. And if you can build the base, we'll start filling in from there. So.
Thank you for your question. That was great. Anyone else? Left? Oh, yes, perfect.
Joe Campbell, School of Environment and Natural Resources. Excellent panel, thank you. As you think about where you want to go next and the companies or organizations that you'd want to work for or maybe even create, what are some of the components you're looking for in those organizations? And Marie, I hope you'll answer as well.
This is actually something that I've been thinking about a lot as a graduating senior this semester. And it's kind of trying to balance in my mind, how can I have the most impact? And is it by working for an organization that really mirrors my values and is doing work that I really believe to be important? Or is it by joining an organization that isn't doing those things and trying to kind of incorporate what I think is important into that work that they're already doing? So I don't know if anyone else wants to add into that, because I do not have the answer. As I search for jobs, wow, I really don't have the answer to that question. But
So my answer might not be correct, but this is where my brain is at the moment. So I've had a similar thought on that, where I've looked at the two sides of the coin of like, do I want to be in an environment where I'm speaking to a group of people that are all like me, going towards a common goal, or do I want to be like the lone voice to change the other voices? And as an engineer, I've just looked at it as like each engineering field is a little bit different. So I originally was in environmental engineering because I wanted to be on this side of the coin, where I was around the environmentalists. And this past summer, I actually switched over to industrial and systems engineering for that exact reason, because I think that I feel like my voice rings louder and my ability to create change is amplified when people around me are not thinking the way that I do. And not because I want to ruffle any feathers, but because I think people who aren't engaged are not disengaged for a reason. Sometimes they just haven't been reached out to yet. And as far as looking at my career and what I want to do and how I want that to shape my everyday life, I'm really drawn to companies that are willing to listen, more so than already have an initiative or have a sustainability statement that they can show me, because to be totally honest, I don't always trust them when they tell me they do have one. So I actually went into the previous career fair for engineers with that in mind. That was my pitch. I just vocalized what I was passionate about and asked what they were doing to help sustainability. And it sparked some really, really interesting discussions and also sparked some blank stares. So I think that's kind of how I'm going about it personally. And I did find a company in particular that was able to tell me some things they were working on, and it was in the forefront stage, and it gave me numbers and data about how they wanted to get better, in particular like a wind energy kind of perspective. So that kind of thing is interesting me, as far as I'm not finding a sustainable company to re-engineer, but instead helping other companies reach a sustainability platform.
That's awesome, thanks.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that that's the mindset you go into, and I'm hearing this more often with my peers as we look for jobs, that sustainability is something that we consider when we look at companies and jobs. So it's becoming increasingly important, and I think companies are hearing that and knowing that they need to not just have something nice to say, but be able to prove that they're backing up their statements and their visions that they're making around sustainability. But I guess something that I'm exploring right now is I know the more I learn about the problems our world is facing, the more I realize how many people it's going to take to address them. And just through the amazing experiences and opportunities I've had working with staff and faculty, staff like Gina, and Dr. Campbell is actually an amazing example of interdisciplinary work being done at the university and bringing in a lot of different people to solve an issue. But I'm really realizing that education is so powerful. And so I'm currently exploring what kind of roles exist for working with universities to create these sustainability programs that maybe universities are lacking currently. And there's a lot of students who don't realize they have this passion for this work, and they just, like Dominique said, they just haven't heard the message yet and don't know they want to be a part of it. So working with a bunch of students and enabling them, I think, is something I'm interested in exploring.
Great. I think we have time for one last question. So, left? All right, yep.
Well, I want to say thank you to everybody. My question is going to be very, very different because I am from a very different place. Most of the things that we've been talking here has got to do with the developed countries, got to do with Ohio and other universities that are around. I am from Nigeria. And somebody asked me yesterday, wow, have you come for this conference just for this particular? I said yes. My question is this. We've been talking about sustainability, collaboration, and the likes. Like I said, I'm from Nigeria. And if Ohio State University is the second largest, like I heard from a lot of people, it simply means that my school, the whole of my school put together in Nigeria, will not be up to, should I say, a course program or a department. I don't know how, maybe a faculty. Now, if I am going to gain from these conference, I want to know how a university like Ohio will be able to collaborate with my own college so as to be able to gain something. We've been talking about sustainability. Yes, if there is a collaboration, the possibilities of gaining from Ohio will be very high, or from any other universities that their representatives are here. So my question is, how do we collaborate so that at least my coming here wouldn't be a loss? Thank you, God bless.
So how do we look at collaboration a little bit broader than just university-wide? Are any of you guys doing work maybe on an international level or involved in some of those things? Yeah.
So it wasn't exactly sustainability, but I have worked abroad for engineering, working on improving emissions in aircrafts. And I think Ohio State is extremely gifted in the sense that we have massive outreach, international even, to many, many countries, many, many continents. And we do have quite a few humanitarian efforts in countries all around the globe. But if you're currently not connected to that network, I think one of the easiest ways, as we mentioned before, is to just reach out to advisors. If your local community is willing to foster that partnership, foster that collaboration, then the hard work's done. You found us a location in need that wants our help. At that point, there's so many more students like us willing to step up to the plate and take action. So if you can provide that platform for us to step onto, then really that's all it takes.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Ohio State's doing a whole lot in terms of connection throughout the state of Ohio. A lot of you know about our OSU Mansfield microfarm and the community partnership there, and a lot of our students have engaged in that way, nationally as well, related to a variety of issues in these spaces, and then also internationally, as you mentioned. I'll just reiterate what I said before, too, with, for example, with the Sustainability Institute and our new launch here. Let us know what conversations you'd like to have. We have many gifted faculty, staff, administrators, students here that would love to partner, and my role is kind of as a connector, right? I mentioned the matchmaker piece. That's what a lot of us here at the university do, is make sure that we can find a shared vision and shared interests, and there's so much here at OSU, you're right, that the global connection does exist. It's just finding that right fit and letting us know how we can be good partners. So please do reach out to us.
Yeah. We don't have them represented on the stage today, but we have different study abroad programs and different student organizations that are working specifically on international things like that. And there are just so many students ready to jump on these opportunities. So, yeah, absolutely. We are at the top of the hour, so we're going to have to wrap up. Thank you so much to our panelists. We will invite everybody back into this room at 1:30 for our Discovery Theme lecture by the Honorable Mary Robinson. We do have a couple copies of her book to get everyone excited for the talk, Climate Justice. So we do have a copy for our panelists. And if everybody looks under their chairs, some people have blue sticky notes, which means that they also get a copy of the book. And we will be handing those out at this table up here by the stage.